In this movie, I provide you some additional tips for working with behaviors in Director 11. Now, behaviors included with Director do have brief descriptions, and you'll want to read these descriptions to learn about the various behaviors, but they're a little bit hidden and roundabout to get to them. You'll want to use the Behavior Inspector to display the information about a behavior that's attached to a sprite or a frame. So here in the library panel or the code library, you don't get these descriptions. You only get the descriptions if you've already applied the behavior to a sprite or a frame. So go ahead and click on the sprite or the frame that does contain the behavior, and then click on the Behavior Inspector here. And then you get, notice, a short description of that behavior as well as tips on using the behavior. Notice that there's a list for this particular sprite, has a range of actually 4 behaviors attached to it. So click on the behavior and then you get the description underneath. You may need to expand the panel that shows you these descriptions. Notice that if you don't have the panel expanded, you won't see these descriptions. So they're pretty hidden there, but you'll also find these descriptions in the help area. So what I recommend that you do is go ahead and drag and drop a behavior that you're interested in learning more about onto a sprite or a frame, and then open up the Behavior Inspector, expand the Behavior Inspector, and then read through the description. Now you can attach as many behaviors as you want to a sprite, but you can attach only one behavior to a frame. If you do attach a behavior to a frame that already has a behavior, the new behavior replaces the old one. You'll attach a behavior to multiple sprites by holding down the Shift key. Select all the sprites on the stage, open up your code library, and then go ahead and drag and drop that behavior to all those selected sprites. Choose your parameters, click OK. Now you'll notice that if done correctly, all of those sprites now avoid my mouse, since I attached the avoid mouse behavior to them. Notice that also the behavior should be listed there in the list of behaviors for that sprite. Avoid mouse is on that one too, so that one did work. Now you may have noticed that I've been using both behaviors attached to sprites and also behaviors attached to frames. Frame-based behaviors are best suited to actions that affect the entire movie. For example, you might attach a loop until media in frame is available behavior. This will make the movie wait while the media for a particular frame downloads. When you do attach a behavior and the parameters dialog box appears, let's go ahead and demonstrate that by opening up my code library. And let's drag and toss behavior onto the graphics sprite there. Notice that there's a dialog box. Now the parameters that you specify in these dialog boxes apply only to the behavior as it's attached to the current sprite or frame. These settings do not affect the way the behavior works when attached elsewhere. That's a very important consideration, and that way you can apply the same behavior to multiple sprites and then adjust the parameters for each one. And remember that you can use the Behavior Inspector to change the parameters at any time for the attached behavior just by double-clicking on it. So for example, there's the parameters for the avoid mouse, and I can change the distance, speed, active at start, and limited to stage area settings. Likewise, I can double-click on the cursor change and change the cursor icon that appears when I roll over that sprite. Another tip is that once you attach a behavior to a sprite or frame, Director copies the behavior from the behavior library to the currently selected cast in the movie. This means you do not have to include the behavior library when you distribute the movie. This means, for example, that notice in this particular Director file, I've been applying quite a number of behaviors to it. You'll see these behaviors here as separate cast members in the cast window. Most of these cast members here at the bottom of the cast window are indeed behaviors. Color cycle, rotate, pixelate, jump forward button, jump to marker button, and so on. And one last tip is that if you do want to start to learn how to create your own behaviors, notice that there's an icon right here. If you select the behavior in the Behavior Inspector, click on the script window, and you can actually see the Lingo script that comprises the behavior. Notice that they're quite complex and involved. That's really why I like these behaviors so much, is they're very powerful, yet they're very easy to use. So this is a very good segue now to the next section of this tutorial, which is all about Director's internal scripting language, Lingo. So we now move on to this section of the tutorial, where I'll give you a review of Lingo fundamentals, talk about handlers and functions, global variables, script types, and much, much more.